Alright, so today, just because, egg sucking leeches are a really popular pattern among steelheaders, there's lots of different ways that you can actually make the egg, which the leech is sucking on, because basically it just consists of an egg fly pattern, whether it's a bead or a soft plastic or a yarn, followed by a woolly bugger. So I'm just gonna kind of show you some examples of how you can make the egg pattern, and then maybe explain some of the good parts and bad parts of each of them, and then you can kind of decide when you're making your own egg sucking leech patterns what style egg pattern you might want to use. So I'll just get to tying. So the first one that I'll show you is just using the yarn to make an egg pattern. You just want to build up a little bit of a thread base here, the front of the hook. Maybe go over it 3 or 4 times, and then just stop right in the middle. And then you cut off a couple hunks of your egg yarn. Comes packaged like this. Many different manufacturers of this stuff, multiple colors. And you're going to want to take and you can put the first clump on top, do a wrap or two, and then let that spin to the bottom, and then cinch down tight. And I usually cut it off at about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches in length, just to make it easy to work with. Then you're going to want to put one on top. Make sure you stay inside one thread wrap on top of another, and you can peel back this egg yarn, kind of come in between the 2 layers here, and then do a couple wraps in front, and that kind of holds everything. And then you can go ahead and whip finish, kind of hold back the egg yarn there. Just 3 or 4 wraps will do it, and then you'd put down some head cement, snip your line, and then you'd want to trim this. And you want to just make sure when you're trimming that you hold everything really tight. And then you can kind of just trim in an arcing pattern, and you can kind of mess around with the size of this. Depending on the size of the egg sucking leech that you're doing, you can make these real small or real big. I'm using a cheap hook right now, so it's really bending on me, but this is just because I'm going to tie a bunch of different styles right on the same hook for you. Alright, so once you have it trimmed, you can just kind of fluff it out, do some final trimming if you want. Usually I'd follow this up by a cone-shaped bead head, and it would end up looking something kind of like this. You can see the cone in there. It kind of helps weight it in the front. Still lets the egg pattern maintain its spherical shape. This is just a lighter colored orange. One problem though with these, and this is more when you're tying them on the black, or if you're fishing them in dirty waters, this egg yarn has a tendency to sometimes, if you get like a black woolly bugger wet, the marabou tail will often leach some of the dye out, and then that'll end up getting in your egg pattern. So you can see it's a lot less brilliant after a while. Same thing will happen, but not to the same degree if you fish it in real dirty water. So that's just something to take into account when you're using this. But I do like the fact that when fish bite this, it's soft, it's kind of got a natural feel, and it really does show up well in the water. Alright, so the next thing I'll show you is dubbing a ball for an egg. You're just going to want to trim the excess here. I kind of got to speed through this just to get through the different methods here for you. But just put down a little bit of a thread base. And then you can use multiple different dubbings in orange colors or chartreuse colors, anything that's real bright. This is a lighter colored right here that I use, just a UV shrimp pink. And then this is what I use a lot. Here is a hot orange, so I'll just show you that one. So you just take some dubbing, dub it onto your thread. This thread I'm using is just it's a Danville's fluorescent orange, 210 denier. And so what you do is basically just build up a ball at the front of your fly, and you'd want to try to keep it fairly tight, you know, really get your dubbing tight on the thread, and then wrap a nice tight ball that'll kind of keep it nice and compact after you've, because if you leave it kind of loose and you fish it for a while, it might end up kind of loosening up on you. You'll get a lot of this dubbing material kind of flowing back over your fly, which isn't a horrible thing, but you just kind of want it to keep that nice spherical shape. So that's the dubbing ball. One thing with this is that, you know, it can end up the same as this egg yarn. It can end up soaking up some of the black dyes if you're using a black woolly bugger, or if you're fishing in really stained water, which is oftentimes the case on the Brule, because steelhead come in when the river's up, and when the river's up, it's usually taking in a lot of the clay and silt from the banks along with it. So, and then one kind of neat thing, if you wanna, one good thing about these is that they're really easy to do, and if you want to kind of prevent them from taking on some of the black dyes or anything, changing color over time, you can coat them in a 5-minute epoxy or something like that. This is a case where I've done that. You can see it ends up turning out a bit darker. This is actually that same dubbing underneath some 5-minute epoxy, and it'll come basically like this. You can pick it up at pretty much any store. I picked this one up at Walmart. This was actually in the automotive section. You're going to want one that dries clear. A lot of these will end up, if you don't go back to the automotive section, a lot of the ones that I found, they actually dry in a slightly yellow color. So make sure you find one that dries clear. And you want to try to minimize the amount of bubbles when you're mixing it up, because I got one here, if I can find it, where it's taken on quite a bit of bubbles, and then that just kind of clouds it up. So that's one possible problem with that. But so you got an option there with the dubbing ball and the 5-minute epoxy. Makes a really nice lifelike looking fly. But one possible bad thing is it's really hard. So just like regular plastic, it feels like once it's cured, that can sometimes maybe spook a steelhead if it bites and feels that it might spit the hook before you even know you have a bite. So, all right, the next one that I'll do is actually a soft plastic, and what you want to do is just lay down a base of thread, and then what you'd actually do for this one is you'd tie it off. So you can just take your whip finisher, just put a couple of whip finishes, and I don't have a very deep throat on this one, so that's why that was a little tough. You can whip finish by hand too if you need. And then you take a soft plastic. They come in different types. This is one that I found at Walmart for real cheap. This is the Rocket Red, which is a little more translucent, but not quite as flashy in the water. This one's a real bright orange. It doesn't show up quite so well on the camera, but really bright. And this is what I was using for quite a while to make my egg-sucking leeches, and I still would on certain colors. So what you do is you just take your hook, you find about the center of the plastic, and then you just thread it on your hook. And then what you do is you'd take a super glue. A lot of times fly tires use this, Zap-A-Gap. This works really well on plastics and foam. It's almost instantaneous, so you got to be really quick. You coat your thread, and then you really want to push this on to the thread base. And I would suggest pushing it on just keep just a slight space between the eye of the hook and this plastic, because what I'd usually do after that is I'd push a bead on and tie, and it tends to scrunch this ball up, and you don't want it to scrunch around the eye of the hook. So I would just keep it a little bit of space between the eye and the soft plastic when you push it on. I'm not actually gonna do the super glue, but you can imagine that it holds on there pretty good. And here's a couple examples of that, using that type of soft plastic. This is a white pattern that I tie, a white and UV with some purple back here, purple flash in the marabou tail. This pattern's got me a few strikes, a few fish on. So white, don't forget to tie some patterns in white. It's just a really good attractor pattern. One thing about these soft plastics is they kind of put off like a slime coat over time in your box. It took quite a while to get like this, but I probably wouldn't fish this pattern anymore, just because this egg pattern is really dull now. It's come in contact with the black marabou tail, and it's kind of taken on some of the dye. So I definitely still tie these patterns, but might shy away from tying them using the soft plastic on the black patterns. And then I would probably just tie them. If I was to do it, I'd probably just tie them as I wanted to use them. So that's that example. So I'll go on to another hook here. So then just a couple more options to talk about really quick, and they come down to beads. And basically you can take you either have these weighted beads here, and these don't always fit real well on all hooks. I don't think this one would actually fit on the hook that I have right now. It's got a fairly small opening, but you can find these in a lot of shops. The one problem with these, they're a good way to add weight to the front of your fly, but this almost like powder coating ends up chipping off when you're fishing it in the rocks over time. So I know you can buy now real quick UV cured paints in multiple colors. I'm assuming you could find a UV cured paint in this real bright orange, but just something to think about when you're using these. And then my final option is just a glass seed bead. So you just want to find one that fits your hook. Hook barb will slide over but won't go over the eye. And these have kind of a silver chromed inside underneath the orange glass. So they're really bright. They really shine in the water. It's quite a bit more orange than what the camera is doing for it, but basically this is just something that I picked up at Michael's. Basically any craft shop should carry them. Toho glass beads. This is a 6/0 E bead. So and it seems to be just about the right size where it'll go over the hook but won't cover the hook eye. And so this is just an example of one of those flies that I tied with a glass bead in front. And to be honest, I haven't gotten to try these out too much, so I don't know how durable these glass beads are if you start fishing it in amongst the rocks, but just another option for you. So I guess if I had to say which ones I like best, I like the soft plastic. Has a real nice feel to it. You can get a nice large size on those, and it seems to be more realistic. But just as long as you remember, if you tie them on the black, you might end up getting the color fade over time. So just tie them as you need them. And then probably these glass seed beads, I really like the nice clean look. They're really flashy, so just to give these flies, or not flies, but give these methods a try and see which one you like best. So hope this helps you out.